This is the story of the only car Plymouth ever built to kill the Corvette, a car so radical that Chrysler's own policy demanded it be destroyed. It escaped, and its survival took it through the hands of a Swiss businessman, the Shah of Iran, a Kuwaiti car dealer named Anwar al-Mullah, and finally a teenager dodging artillery fire in Beirut, a young man named Karim Edde, who spent 15 years moving it from hideout to hideout so it wouldn't be blown apart. The car is the 1960 Plymouth XNR. One was built, one survived. This is how. To understand why this car existed at all, you have to understand where Chrysler stood in 1949. The corporation's cars were boxy, upright, and conservative, engineered brilliantly, styled like refrigerators. Sales were sliding, so Chrysler president K.T. Keller went out and hired a designer from Studebaker named Virgil Exner, and he handed him something almost no stylist in Detroit had: real authority. Exner's first fight inside the company wasn't over a fender line. It was over who got final say on design, the stylists or the engineers. Exner won, and Chrysler was never the same. Through the 50s, Exner ran what he called the Idea Car program. Not concept cars, idea cars. His term, his philosophy, and the aesthetic thread running through all of them had a name too: the forward look. Long hoods, jet-age tail fins, a sense of motion standing still. These weren't rolling mock-ups with no engines. Chrysler wanted fully drivable machines, and to build them, Exner struck up a partnership with Luigi Segre, the director of Carrozzeria Ghia in Turin, Italy. Segre was the man who made it work on the Italian side, a believer in the collaboration as much as Exner was. Chrysler would design the car and ship over a chassis. Ghia's craftsmen would hammer out the body by hand, in steel, and ship the finished car back. Between 1940 and 1961, Chrysler cataloged 28 of these idea cars. 24 came out of the Ghia partnership. Here's the part of the program Chrysler didn't advertise. When an idea car finished its tour of duty on the show circuit, it faced a corporate death sentence. Some were stripped for parts. Some were cut into pieces. Most went to the crusher. The company had its reasons: liability, import duties, the simple fact that it didn't want experimental one-offs floating around in public wearing its name. You've probably heard what Chrysler did to its turbine cars a few years later. 45 of the 55 were destroyed at a scrapyard near Detroit, and the destruction was filmed as proof for the higher-ups. And consider the Norseman, another Exner and Ghia collaboration, completed in 1956, loaded onto the Andrea Doria for its voyage to America. The Andrea Doria sank. The Norseman went with it, one of Exner's most ambitious concepts, gone to the bottom of the Atlantic before anyone in the United States ever laid eyes on it in person. Lost cars, erased cars, that wasn't an exception. That was the system. Show the world the future, then quietly erase it. Which brings us to 1958, and the most personal design Virgil Exner ever put on paper. He called it the asymmetrica at first, and the name told you everything. One side of the car did not match the other. A massive scoop ran offset down the driver's side of the hood, flowed into a curved windscreen, swept back over the driver's head, and rose into a single towering tail fin. One fin, off-center, like a fighter plane's rudder, grafted onto a roadster. The passenger sat 4 inches lower than the driver, behind a small folding wind deflector, and a steel tonneau cover could turn the whole car into a single-seater. Exner was an obsessive photographer, and it showed. The gauges were rimmed like camera lenses, and the glove box was a removable leather camera case. By the time it was finished, the design was so completely his, so thoroughly an expression of his forward-look principles pushed to their logical extreme, that the company renamed it after him. Strip the vowels out of Exner and you get XNR. Now, the badge said Plymouth, and that mattered, because this was Plymouth's shot, the only serious one it ever took at the Chevrolet Corvette. The Corvette that year was making 315 horsepower from a V8. And here's the detail that should make every Mopar fan lean in. There's no V8 in this car. Under that asymmetric hood sat a 170 cubic inch slant 6. Before you groan, understand what kind of slant 6. This was one of just 12 built to full NASCAR specification, wearing the Hyper-Pack performance package, the same breed of engine that swept the first 7 positions in NASCAR's compact car race at Daytona in January 1960. Output figures as high as 250 horsepower have been attached to it over the years. A 250 horsepower 6 against a 315 horsepower V8 on paper, the Corvette wins. On a track, the gap was considerably smaller than anyone expected. Exner personally took the XNR to 142 miles per hour. With further tuning at Chrysler's proving grounds, the car went past 150 in 1960 on 6 cylinders. In a car built on a shortened, reinforced Valiant unibody, the XNR debuted at the New York Auto Show in the spring of 1960, the same show floor as the Corvette it was aimed at. The press loved it, the public stared at it, and Plymouth's management looked at the numbers and made the call that defined the company's next decade. No, there would be no Plymouth sports car. The division would pour its money into the coming muscle car wars instead, a bet that, to be fair, gave us the Roadrunner, the GTX, and the Hemi Cuda, but it meant the XNR was finished. Tour over. And you already know what happened to Idea cars when the tour ended. Exner knew too. He tried to buy his own masterpiece from Chrysler. The company refused, and Exner later said it plainly. If the car had stayed in the United States, it would have had to be destroyed. That was the rule. One of one, hand-built in Turin, faster than anything wearing a Plymouth badge, and none of it mattered. The XNR was sentenced. But it didn't die. Chrysler sold it quietly, overseas, where American liability rules didn't reach, and the car passed to a Swiss businessman before landing in the collection of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran. The Shah fell in 1979. His collections were scattered. Anwar al-Mullah, a Kuwaiti car dealer with a sharp eye for exactly this kind of extraordinary machine, acquired the XNR and brought it to Lebanon. That's where Karim Edde found it. Edde was a teenager when the Lebanese Civil War closed in around him and the car both. Rather than abandon it, he moved it, garage to garage, hideout to hideout. For 15 years, through some of the most sustained urban combat the modern world had seen, Edde kept the XNR alive. When the war finally ended and the car could be moved safely, Edde got it out of Beirut. He found a restorer willing to take on the job of bringing a one-of-one 50-year-old hand-hammered Ghia body back to show condition. In 2011, the 1960 Plymouth XNR made its public reappearance at the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, one of the most prestigious collector car events in the world. From there, it went to Pebble Beach, where it won the Gran Turismo Trophy at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. The following year, in 2012, RM Sotheby's offered it at their Monterey auction. It sold for $935,000. One car, one built, one survived. Through a corporate execution order, a revolution, a civil war, 15 years of artillery, fire, and back alley, hiding spots, and it ended up on the lawn at Pebble Beach, worth nearly $1 million, wearing the name of the man who drew it. Virgil Exner never saw that, but the XNR made it anyway. What saved it was a loophole with an Italian accent. The car was shipped back to Ghia in Turin, out of the country.